Hello YouTube, my name is Paul, hope you're all keeping well. Welcome back to another Amiga Power Top 100 Countdown from issue 64, which is August 1996, the definitive list according to Amiga Power. I know Amiga Power done their own Top 100s, they also done Readers Top 100s, but this is their own opinions. So a bit of a recap, I'll go through this magazine, I'll read the captions that Amiga Power staff wrote about the game. Sometimes the grammar's not very good and it sounds like I'm a bit thick when I'm reading it. I'm just trying to work out in my mind what they're talking about. So a bit random sometimes, the staff at AP. They were funny, I'll give you that. But yeah, the 10 games I've got for you there, there's some games that are, well, would be very familiar to all of us on the Amiga. Some games are a bit vague, and some games, to be fair, when you actually play them, are bloody good. Now, unfortunately, I took the video clips of these games quite a while ago. So yeah, between making the video and doing the video clips, so yeah, my memory isn't brilliant at the best of times. So trying to remember what these games played like, it will be a bit of a pain really. But there are a few games here I had back in the day and I absolutely adored them. So let's crack on with number 70. So, number 70 then. New entry by GameTech. Cyberpunk vampire point and click thriller with loads of killing, occasional profanity, and a tremendously free-form story structure that lets you wander around and find your own solution, more or less. Now this particular game here, it took me a little while to get into, and that is BloodNet. So a massive recommendation for back in the day was to have a hard drive and an accelerator for this game to run quite well. If you didn't have any of those, you would be swapping discs till the cows come home. But yeah, the game I vaguely remember. I remember the graphics being beautifully drawn. For some reason, the sprites didn't quite go with the background graphics. I don't know why. It kind of used that effect as well when the kind of sprites walked away. It got smaller, a bit bigger. Unless I'm a little bit confused. But yeah, the game itself, it took a little while to get used to it. Once I got used to it, I loved it. It's got great music as well. Really enjoyed the atmosphere too, to be fair. But I vaguely remember the story. That's the problem. But I certainly would recommend it. And will it be in my top 100? I have to sit on the fence with that one. It's certainly not one of my favourite point-and-click adventures, but it's certainly one I wouldn't necessarily dismiss. There's something about it that I really enjoyed. Now 69. New entry by Domark. Somebody tried to cross FIFA with sensible soccer. Ha ha ha. How we laughed in the office until we actually saw this very neatly designed game and shut up. So I mean, it doesn't make no bloody sense, does it? Now this game, again, vague. Not vague. BloodNet wasn't vague, was it? It's a game I played back in the day. But this one in particular was vague. Is vague. That's Total Football. Quite a late release there by Domark. A game I probably would have missed. Yeah, I would have had the PlayStation in 1996. But playing this game, first impressions, because I only played it the once, it seemed pretty good. Graphically, it seemed very smooth. Quite fluid. I probably would have liked this one back in the days. I love my football games. Especially the top-down variety, like the kickoffs and all. But this was more like FIFA. And I'm not sure if it's better than FIFA or not. I couldn't tell you that. Because I never really played FIFA before. But yeah, in the comments below was Total Football, a really good game. Was it a FIFA beta as well, to be fair, but it looked great. And it's a bloody cheap game to pick up if you like your football games. I think this is just a generic, enhanced for faster Amigas and for those with added memory. But generally, it's cheap as chips, that game. I'm really pleased to have it, actually, because it's a really fun football game. Would it be in my top 100 again? I don't know. I mean, in terms of football games, I love Kickoff too. I like Sensible Soccer. I love Sensible Soccer. I like Sensible Soccer. So yeah, it's probably one of the better Amiga football games, but it wouldn't necessarily make my top 100. So in a 68, we have a new entry. Revamped version of Thrust. We move ultra heavy steel balls around with a spaceship buffeted by the immutable laws of physics. The CD32 version used up to Thrust. That don't make no sense to me. And hence sometimes I look at these pages and I think, what the hell does that mean? Now, the game is Fly Harder. The version I have is the CD32 version. But I believe it's the floppy disk version that is the better version. Not my genre of game. I do not like these Thrust games. I cannot concentrate enough to play them. I'm quite impatient when I play games. I'm quite impatient generally, but with games, all that farting around trying to land a ship onto something is, for me, it's just bloody hard work. But I know some people out there love them. I played Oids a little bit on the ST. I had the same problem there. But yeah, never played the actual floppy disk version before, I must say. But that certainly wouldn't make my top 100 because I don't like that genre of games. Next up is 67. Now this is a game I do rather enjoy. A re-entry, a racing game. That's it. That's the description they gave for one of the most, well, one of the best games on the Amiga in my view. In fact, I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed the two sequels. Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge. Now look at that. That is a blinding game. There was nothing else quite like this on the Amiga when I got this. Even though I played it on the ST. So the same could be said for the Atari ST. Again, a game that should be in anybody's collection. I know a lot of people like the second one. I absolutely adored this one. And the third one I liked as well. It just got a lot of glitches in it, which made it a little bit unplayable at times. But this one here, yeah, certainly would definitely be in my top 100. One of the finest arcade racers on the Commodore Amiga, without a shadow of a doubt. Enough said. go. 66, another game by Domark. Well, they're having a good old time at the moment, aren't they? Blimey. So this has actually dropped to multiple places. Some might argue the racing game, with faster than thought acceleration and twisty, turny courses that have to be memorised before you can even entertain the thought of winning. Any guesses to that game? It's similar to that one you're thinking of, but it's not that one. F1. Again, very similar to Vroom, a game that I struggle to play because it is exactly what the data just described. Faster than thought. By the time you get to a corner, you haven't got a hell clue what's going on. So, yeah, again, another cheap and cheerful title. Vroom's quite an expensive pick-up on the Amiga. F1 is not. And the Championship Edition, again, which I believe came out just after this one, shouldn't set you back more than 10 quid, but certainly worth buying and playing, in my opinion. It wouldn't make the top 100 for me because it's just not for me. It's too wild, this game. It's too wild. Yeah. Would it make your top 100? I'd like to know. Ah, 65. Probably the best game of this 10, in my view. In my personal humble opinion. The game I first played on the Atari ST. One of the original beat-em-ups that contains the missing element of humour. Novel three-way battles and the infamous ability to make your opponent's pants fall down make this a hoot even today. IK Plus, come on. Again, this is probably my favourite beat-em-up on the Amiga, to be fair. And even on the ST. I mean, we didn't get great ports of side-scrolling beat-em-ups, did we? They were generally quite poor. But IK Plus, wow, what a game. I played this game to death on my ST. Both versions are quite similar. But yeah, this certainly would make my top 100. Certainly would. It could even make my top 10, something like that. It's a brilliant game. Collectible, because it's brilliant. You won't see it very often, and it will set you back a few quid. But yeah, I used to love this game, playing with my mate, playing on my own. The old backflips, the old split kicks, sort of a technical term I don't know. But certainly would be in my top 100. And like I said, possibly in my top 10 games on the Amiga. What a game. Next up is a game I played quite a bit. No, it's a sequel I played quite a bit on the PC. Microprose game. So you do expect a nice thick book with this game. It, as the advert suggests, no Italian kid ever wanted to be a train driver. Sounds like there's a bit of text missing there. Then they'd miss out on this SimCity, but with a locomotive infrastructure game. So I mean, What sense is that? If, as the advert suggests, no Italian kid ever wanted to be a train driver, then they miss out on this SimCity, but with a locomotive infrastructure game. Not quite sure what that even means. But it can be none other than Railroad Tycoon. Now, this weighs a ton. Again, another cheap and cheerful game. Never played it on the Amiga, I must confess. I played the sequel a lot on the PC, and I loved it, but it gets to a point, like most games like this, after you kind of played it a few times, the novelty wears off quite quick. Because like you play, say, like 20-30 years, there's lots of evolution and everything great, and then after a while it all becomes much the same. A bit like theme park. Once you built your park up and there's nothing new you can build, it becomes a little boring, doesn't it? But yeah, again, not, like I said, not one that I've played before. Again, it probably wouldn't be in my top 100 simply because I have never played it before. I'm making about as much sense as Amiga Power. But yeah, another cheap and cheerful title. Right, in a 63, a game that always reminds me of sanitary products for some reason. Right, by Core Design, it's on the cover of this month's mag. Play it and try to avoid feeling heartbroken as Blob screams a silent scream and crashes to his inevitable death. Yeah, it's true actually. That game is none other than Blob. Again, another cheap and cheerful puzzle game. Never played it before making this video, and I've got to say I quite enjoyed it. It's one of those games that's on multiple different platforms. You just got to guide your little character down to the platforms without actually falling off them. That's about as far as I got, to be honest. Again, this one won't cost you more than 10 quid. Not really much I can say about it because I haven't played it for more than, say, about 20-25 minutes. I can see why it's a bit enjoyable. Reminds me a little bit of something like Bob Buzel. Different platforms or different squares do different things. But that's probably about as far as I'm going to take that. Because again, this would not be in my top 100. But I can imagine it being quite addictive the further you go on into the game. But in terms of puzzlers, there's probably more puzzlers I prefer than Blob. Next up, number 62, a game by Guildhall. A game I never played back in the day. Excellent level design and a genuine sense of fun make the Zelda-esque overhead RPG stand out from a fairly lackluster crowd. Some people enjoyed making this, and it shows. Some people enjoy making it. Now, I've got the CD32 version of this, and that is Legends. Again, a game I've not really played. When I did play it, though, I was quite impressed. It seemed like quite a fast-paced RPG. It is a Zelda clone, really. Multiple different variations of that. That's actually a compilation with the original box art. I think there's another compilation like this with different games. So there's the original box art version of it, and there's the obviously the disc version, floppy disk version. So again, collectible game, don't come up very often. But my first impressions were really good. I didn't play it again for more than about half an hour, but it looked and sounded, yeah, really good, to be fair. Certainly one that be sat on the fence. Unless I sat down and played it for multiple hours, I wouldn't know if it's any good or not. So I'll take Amiga Power's word for it. So in a 61, we got a game by Mindscape. Now this one is a CD32 game. It came out on floppy disk, but it's a CD32 version that Amiga Power recommended. As close to a killer app. I thought that was a term that was quite recently used. I didn't realise he used it back in 1996. As close to a killer app as a CD32 ever got. Liberation has you guiding robots through a massive texture map future city to rescue political prisoners. Didn't sell the CD32, of course. Although after Commodore's bungled launch, Quake couldn't have sold a CD32. And that is Liberation on the CD32. I had this on floppy disk back in the day, installed it onto my 1200. It was great because you could unpack all the textures for the walls as well if you wanted to, if you had the hard drive space and the processor to kind of, I suppose, move all those graphics around. You could unpack all the walls, had lovely textures. The game looked fantastic, to be honest, but the CD32 version, of course, had speech by well-known actors at the time. Well, well-known TV actors in the UK. Yeah, some amazing reviews there. 94%, 95%. Yeah, it was brilliant. I loved it. I played this game for a lot. I didn't play Captive much, because I only got Captive after I got this, funny enough. But, yeah, brilliant game. Brilliant RPG. Certainly one I'd recommend. Certainly one that would be in my top 100. That's it. End on a high there. So if you haven't played this before, give it a go. If you're not into RPGs, like I said, don't bother. It's a long game. Excellent. So thank you very much for watching the top 100 video. Until next time, take care and bye for now.